lot of what I had in mind, I heard Jody talking about as I was standing out here for the last half hour, making time for yourself, right? So one of the biggest things about stress management is taking care of yourself. If you get on an airplane, before it takes off, the flight attendant goes up front and starts giving you all the directions for flying. And one of the things they say, if they lose oxygen, the mask falls down. Put your mask on before you put your neighbor's mask on. If you're not taking care of yourself, you're not going to be as effective at taking care of whomever it is that you're responsible for. So it is important for you to take care of yourself. I just drove here in my truck. I've got a 1997, it's a 20-year-old Toyota pickup truck, and I've got 351,000 miles on it. Now it's about worn out, okay? And it is a Toyota, but I think the key is that I've taken care of it. I've got the oil changed, I've got the front end aligned, I put new tires on it, I changed the brakes when it needed to. I took care of it when it needed to be taken care of. Looking at industries, the industry that has the biggest degree of burnout is the healthcare industry. And I know you guys are mostly, you're taking care of family members or loved ones or whatever, but it's the same thing. If you're caring for someone else, it's easy for you to give out, right? And we're all of us, especially those of us who were born in the South, we're all cursed with the Protestant work ethic. You dig in your heels and you work till you can't take it anymore, right? Well, the Chinese say, at least in the Chinese martial arts that I study, they say, stop eating when you're 80% full. Stop training before you get tired. Stop working before you pass out. Now that's not always easy to do if you still got 2 hours on the clock, or if you're caring for someone and there's no one else to take over, right? But the thing is, you do need to make time for yourself. Make time for yourself. And this is one of the biggest things that I run into when I'm teaching Tai Chi classes. People will come in, they'll get excited about it, they'll notice some difference. All of a sudden their health changes, their blood pressure goes down, their diabetes gets better, they start losing weight, they start feeling better. It goes good for about 3 months, and then something happens and they lose track, they quit practicing, and then they never get back into practicing. And then I talk to them a couple months later, well, I quit practicing, well, why can't you get back into it? Well, you don't understand, I just don't have time. This is hygiene. It's the same as brushing your teeth. It's the same as washing your hands. There was a time, 300 or 400 years ago, when they didn't understand that if you didn't wash your hands, you'd get sick. And they blamed the plague on a curse from God. I don't think it was a curse from God. I think it was because people didn't wash their hands, right? And they didn't understand about rats and all these things like that, right? So same thing. A lot of us, even though we have the information right there in front of us, we don't understand that we're poisoning ourselves by not taking time to nurture ourselves, and by believing that all the stuff that comes out of that little black box that we got over in the corner that a lot of people turn on in the morning and don't turn off till they go to bed, right? Or believing the things that we were told, right? Life is hard. It's tough, right? Well, maybe it's not. Maybe it's sometimes it's tough, maybe sometimes it's not tough. But if you were always told it's going to be tough, it's going to always be rough, you're going to believe it's always tough and it's always going to be rough, right? But to some degree, you can change your approach by changing your mind. So basically, the way we approach stress management is acute care, and that is something you can do in the moment when you're in a stressful situation and your fuse is about to blow and you need to calm down. That's the immediate response. The biggest response is what I'm talking about, and that's self-care, right? Learn to start taking care of yourself. And we break that down into 3 categories: the mind, the body, and then the mind-body. I would call that the spirit, but it's not necessarily. You say mind, body, spirit, the 3 things of classical liberal education, but I say the mind-body instead of getting into an ethereal realm. Let's keep it right here, right? So the mind is, think about the way you think about things, right? Do you have to get stressed out if you get in a traffic jam? You don't have to. Do you have to get stressed out if your teenager walks through the room and looks at you cross-eyed or smarts off? You might want to, but you don't have to, right? Think about the way you perceive things, right? That's our mind. Our body is, we need to take care of our body. You need to exercise every day, some kind of exercise every day. Once again, people tell me I don't have time to exercise. You got time to take a bath, don't you? You got time to brush your teeth. You got time to wash your hands. You can make time to exercise. But what happens is, once again, I see people and they have never exercised. They're 55 years old and they can't get in a routine of doing it. I said, well, you've got 55 years of not exercising and you've got 3 weeks of exercising. So that's a hard habit to change, you know. You have to realize if you want to start doing something like that, you have to do it. Look at your diet. I mean, Americans, we have a terrible diet, you know. Look at what you eat and when you eat. What you eat and when you eat. If you're eating a lot of red meats, and if you're eating a big meal in the evenings, that's asking for stress, right? So I would recommend to you to try to eat lighter meals in the evening. Eat your bigger meal at breakfast or lunch. Eat a lighter meal in the evening and eat it earlier in the evening instead of late. If you eat a meal at 9 o'clock at night and then try to go to bed at 11, you're going to have a hard time going to sleep, right? If you eat red meat at 9 o'clock at night and try to go to bed at 11, you may not sleep at all, because that takes a lot of energy to digest that late at night. And that's when your body's energy is trying to shut down, right? So you got a fight going on inside. Think about how much you eat, you know. Try eating 80% of what you used to, you know. Just take 20% off of what you used to eat. See if that makes a difference. Eat more vegetables, more fruits. Drink a lot of water. Drink a lot of water. And exercise and sleep. Everybody needs to get at least 6 hours, preferably 8 hours sleep at night. Get your sleep. And exercise. And another thing I tell people, at the minimum, go for walks. Go for walks and drink a lot of water. If you can't do anything else, go for walks and drink a lot of water. That will make a tremendous difference in your body and how that works. I like tea, I like iced tea, and I drink hot tea, but I think the best thing is to have the majority of your fluids to be water. You know, I don't drink any alcohol, but I will say the glass of red wine is good for you at night. A bottle of red wine, on the other hand, may not be necessarily so good for you every night, right? Same thing. Tea is good for you, right? Too much tea, you may run the other. And another thing I think, now I know coffee is a diuretic, and I believe tea is too. In other words, so it makes you urinate, and a lot of that fluid passes and doesn't necessarily go to where we need it. Now that's really crucial, because you need the fluid to build up blood. You need the blood to wash all the stuff out of your body, you know. And then if you get stressed out, you really need fluid. So we're going to come back. I want to teach you guys a couple. Let me go. The other thing I had. So I said mind, and then body, and then mind-body, right? Or spirit. And I don't like that. I really don't like to use that, because that brings another connotation. So mind-body, when we exercise the mind-body, or we nurture the mind-body, that is meditation or prayer or yoga or Tai Chi, right? It is a mind-body integrative practice, right? Or laughing. One of the best things you can do for your mind and body is to laugh. Really, to turn, you know, find something and have a good belly laugh, you know. That's one of the best things you can do. If you can, that's what I tell people. If you don't have an hour for yoga in the mornings, laugh. Find something funny and laugh about it. Get it out. It makes you feel better, and it's a lot better for you, right? So what we'll do is I'll talk a little bit about stress, and then we'll talk about some of these practices. How to look at stressful situations, some physical practices that we can do, and just basic meditation, just how to just calm down for a little bit. And like I said, as I'm going along, if there are any questions, please feel free to ask. Anything? Okay, so first thing, if you come to my Tai Chi class or one of my workshops, I'm going to ask you to apply by my class rules, right? And my regular students who train with me all the time, I tell them, take the class rules and apply them to life. Make them lifetime rules, or lifetime suggestions if you don't like the word rule. So I'll tell you what my class rules are. Rule number 1, and this is also lifetime rules. So it'll apply for this class that we're doing here, and if you won't, think about applying this to your life. Rule number 1, have fun. This is a fun practice. Life should be fun. Life is for living, laughing, and loving. It ain't for bitching, moaning, and grinding the teeth, right? It's for having fun. It's not always fun. I do acknowledge things happen. Things get us sad. Things knock us off course. But we want life to be fun. Try to make life fun. Rule number 2, smile. If you don't get rule number 1, you can move on to rule number 2. It'll help you get rule number 1. All right? Rule number 3, take it easy. Don't do anything to hurt yourself. When I have people in a Tai Chi class, that's what I tell them. You find your limit. Don't go beyond your limit. It's not a no pain, no gain practice, right? It's no pain, a lot of gain practice. And that's the way life should be. You know, don't do anything to hurt yourself. Don't go to that place that's going to hurt you. You know, whether it's emotional or physical or psychological, you know, find your limit and stay within that. But it's okay to push your limit over time. Just don't go beyond it. Don't hurt yourself. Rule number 4, do it. The old Nike ad, just do it. Do it. Get this practice or whatever it is that you think can help you be a less stressful person, and do it. And do it, and do it, and do it. Right? Rule number 5, don't do it. Don't do it, be it. You can't do peace, you can be peace. You can't do compassion, you have to be compassionate. You can't do love, you have to love. Turn it into a verb. Right? Be it. So don't, and so this is the way I quit smoking. And I quit smoking years ago. I only smoked for about 10 years, so in my mid-20s I decided to quit. And the way I quit was I looked at my mom who never smoked a cigarette in her life, and I said, I want to be like that. So I saw myself as a non-smoker. That way I didn't deprive myself of anything, right? So instead of saying I'm a smoker who's not being able to smoke, I saw myself as a non-smoker and I quit smoking. Same thing when I quit drinking. I just saw myself as someone who didn't drink. I'm not a person who sits around when other people are drinking. Boy, say, boy, I wish I could have one of those, because I'm not a person who drinks, right? I used to drink, but I don't now. And just so, when I decided to be a more healthy person, I saw myself as a more healthy person. Instead of saying, oh, this is drudgery, this is discipline, I don't believe I can do this, I got to get up and go exercise. No, I do that because that's who I am, right? So if you want to be a less stressful, more happy, more peaceful person, see yourself that way. When you look in the mirror, don't see a stressed out person, see a happy person there. And be it. So that's how we go beyond just doing it into being it. Make sense? Everybody with me? Okay, so stress. Stress is the non-specific response of the body to any demand made upon it. There are 2 types of stress, at least the traditional literature says that there's 2 types of stress, eustress and distress. So we all know what distress is. Everybody's had distress. Eustress is useful stress. That's the stress that makes you go ahead and get out of the bed in the morning when your alarm clock goes off, because you know you got to get up and make breakfast and go to work, right? That's not necessarily a bad thing, although it's sometimes hard to go ahead and get out of bed, but it's not the same as stepping on a snake, right? That's distress. Right? If you like me and you don't like snakes, that's distress. Eustress, that, like I said, what I call eustress is not stress at all, it's motivation. You just look at it like that. So, and I really prefer to say that, because then I can say we can live relatively stress-free lives, right? Which means we don't even have eustress, because it's not stress, it's motivation. We have motivations, and that's okay. Motivation is good. But what happens when you get into distress is our bodies automatically go into the fight or flight syndrome, and everybody's heard of that, the fight or flight condition. That's not a bad thing, because once again, if you go out your front door and you step on a copperhead, you need to go into fight or flight. You need to run and get away. And if you didn't have that, you might reach down to pick it up and get bit and die, right? So if a dog attacks you, right, you need fight or flight. If you can run, you need to run. If you need to turn around and hit that dog and try to survive, you need to be able to do that, right? So it's not a bad thing in the right situations, right? So what happens in fight or flight is we have increased muscle tension, increased heart rate, our stroke volume and output increases, elevated blood pressure, increased neural excitability, less saliva in the mouth, increased sodium retention, increased perspiration, a change in respiratory rate, your breathing gets shallow, increased serum glucose, your glucose increases, increased release of hydrochloric acid in the stomach, changes in brain waves, increased urination, your blood gets thicker, you get an adrenaline boost. All of these things happen in case you get attacked by a wild animal or you need to run from a snake, right? But that should not happen to you because you're in traffic, or because that politician that you loathe is on the TV talking right now, right? And it does, that happens to us. But not only that, so many of us get into a situation that we're in a stressful situation just about all day long. That happens to a lot of people, right? My mom used to say, y'all keep that up, you're gonna make me mad. And it's like, oh, But she also used to say, this is going to hurt me more than it hurts you. She didn't know how true that was. Because every time she got mad, that didn't hurt us. That hurt her. Because all of these things happened, and she wasn't under attack. She just had a couple of little knothead kids to deal with. She wasn't being attacked by a dinosaur, right? You see what I'm saying? So, yes, this is useful. If you go down to the ATM machine and you get mugged by some punks, then fight or flight is useful, right? But if you go or driving home and there's traffic on I-40 and you're mad because you didn't want there to be traffic on I-40 and this happens to you, that's not good. That's very bad. That's going to kill you. That's going to take minutes off your life. Every time you go into a stressful situation when it's not warranted, it takes time off your life. Unless you find something to put it back on. You need to reverse the processes. Still with me? So this is what Deepak Chopra says about this. The stress response is meant to be temporary, and when it persists beyond a few minutes, the physiology is out of balance from normal functioning. If it persists chronically, physical damage starts to occur. The hormones that are released in the body's stress response, such as cortisone and adrenaline, are meant to throw your body out of homeostasis or normal balance as an emergency measure. So that's supposed to happen. We want that to happen. But in an emergency, you need blood for fight or flight. You need more, but you don't need it for digestion, right? If you go into fight or flight because you're eating a hamburger and you're stuck in traffic and you're mad, you don't have the right amount of blood to digest that food. It's throwing your body off balance. Honestly, that in itself can lead to diabetes. That in itself can lead to all kinds of physical problems. We don't know how they come. You go to the doctor says, I don't know why it happened, it just happened. Maybe you got a genealogical disposition to it, But it might have been your lifestyle and you didn't realize it. It also, you need a faster heart rate, higher blood pressure to pump more oxygen to your muscle if it's an emergency. The fight or flight response is triggered in a primitive area of the brain that overrides the higher brain's thinking capacity. That's why you jump when you hear a loud bang, and only a few seconds later start to think about whether it was just a car backfiring or a gun, right? But if this pathway is triggered at a low level time and again, it begins to function when it shouldn't, as witness workers who get sweaty palms when the boss simply walks by their desk. No one can healthily sustain the heightened alertness, quick burst of energy, rapid heart rate, elevated blood pressure, and other marks of the fight or flight response. Eventually, it will destroy your body. I have someone in my family who's pretty close to me, and that's exactly what happened to her. She was a very angry person. Since we were children, she was always an angry person. And at 43 years old, she had a heart attack. So, two things. If you looked and literally looked at her cross-eyed, she would go off, fly off. The other thing is she ate junk food like it was going out of style, I think part of the eating was to counter the stress, right? Part of the eating was to counter the stress. I'm stressed out. I got to have a big gulp in a bag of Doritos, just piling on the trouble, right? So I guess my point is that there's a good way and a bad way for this fight or flight thing to happen, right? The deciding factor is here. So you guys imagine right now I've got a big jar full of those beautiful dill pickles, right? And it's open and you can smell them. You can smell the dill pickles, and I'm pulling these dill pickles out, holding it over my mouth, and it's dripping down, and I'm gonna pass one out to each one of y'all. And in a minute your mouth's gonna start getting wet, right? You start feeling a little bit of saliva build up in your mouth just thinking about it. That's a physiological response to a thought that has no inherent reality, right? You just had a physical response to an illusion. Just like crying at a movie, Of course, we all do that, But still, that's a physical response to something that is not real. It's little dots on a screen being blasted through the atmosphere, right? It's not a real thing. Same thing happens when you stress out in traffic. Or when you think about something that happened to you maybe 25 years ago and you start getting upset about it and your heart rate changes and you can actually feel your hands start to, you know what I'm talking about? You're going into a stress mode over a thought, something that does not exist anymore. That was 20 years ago. That is gone. It's not real anymore. So think about all of these ways, and then think about how you can redefine that. How can you redefine these situations? That thought, just think about it. It's just a thought. Tell yourself that's just a thought. I don't have to get freaked out about that. It's a thought. It doesn't exist anymore. You know, maybe the first time you do that, it might not work, but over time, you'll start to rationalize. It is irrational for me to have a physiological response to a thought. It's just energy, right? The way you see things determines how your life comes through, right? Arnold Palmer once said, who was a world famous golfer, and they asked him, "How do you hit a hole in one?" And he said, "What I do is I stand at the tee, and I look down the green and I see the hole, and then I visualize the ball going up and going in the hole, and I see that happen, and then I take my golf club and I just follow through with my vision." Right? Same thing happens if you lay in bed at night and wonder how you're going to pay your bills, right? Or if you start thinking, "I'm not going to be able to make this work out." Guess what? You're just increasing the possibility that you're not going to be able to make this work out through the same process, right? The thing my dad taught me early on was how to shoot a basketball. My dad was a basketball player. I never was a very good basketball player, but he said, you could stand at the side of the court, find your spot on the backboard, hit that spot, and it ricochets in the goal, right? And so you visualize it, see it go through, and see it. But if I stood there and say, "I'll never get this shot, I'll never make this shot, I'll never make this shot," guess what? I'm not going to make this shot. If I get out into traffic and I see a traffic jam coming up and I tell myself, "I hate traffic. Every time I get in traffic, I get stressed out," guess what's going to happen? I'm going to get stressed out, right? If I get in a situation with relatives or people who upset me, and I start thinking they're going to upset me because they always upset me, guess what? So redefining situations can help this to not happen. But the other thing is, and the thing about stress management is it's not a special skill. Now, I did learn how to shoot a basketball goal. I never did learn how to slam dunk a basketball, right? That's a skill, right? Being able to live a relatively stress-free life is not something that's just a natural born skill that some people have, some people don't. Anybody can do that. Mainly, little children don't get stressed out for the most part, right? Mainly little children just go with the flow. That's why they are the keys to the kingdom, right? They just go with the flow. But somewhere around puberty, we start developing ego, and we start learning how to start getting stressed out. We start learning to worry. Before that, kids are go with the flow, They're flexible and they bend and go with it with everything. That's how we do that with the mind. That's the mind's approach to that. It's kind of basic, but does that make sense to everyone? Any questions on that? My recommendation is think about it. Just spend some time. Sit down and just think about the things that are stressing you out, the things that push your buttons, right? And think about, does that really need to push my button? What happens if I allow that to push my button? Does it change the situation, or does it change my physiological body? Does it take minutes off of my life? Okay, so the second thing we do is exercise. And so I'm going to combine body exercise with mind-body exercise. I'm going to show you guys some Qigong exercises. So if everybody will stand up, we'll do some movement here together. Now, there's nothing magical, mystical, or special about this. This is just movement. However, it has been shown to make a difference through evidence-based trials. The system that I teach has been used now at Sloan Kettering Cancer Center in New York, at the Mayo Clinic, in the VA, among other places, just for these things, to increase the immune system, to reduce stress, helps with sleep. Mainly, learn to relax and move your body. You got to move your body. So, if everybody will just follow me, just stand with your legs shoulder width apart and just turn. Make sure you got enough room you don't slap each other. I'm not teaching karate today, so y'all start hitting each other. I'm out of here. Okay, so while you're doing this, notice your breathing. Just breathe normally, but make sure you notice it. Okay, start slowing down a little bit. Continue to notice your breathing. Get even slower. Okay, so the next exercise we're going to do, we're just going to open up. And you're going to cross your hands in front of you, lift them up, and open wide. Now, you imagine that you're in water. So imagine you're standing in the bottom of a swimming pool. So if you drop your hands in the swimming pool, they're not going to move any faster than this. So lift them up. You're pushing up through the water. You can't go any faster than this because you're underwater. And then let them fall down. So now when you push up, inhale. And then when your arms float down, exhale. And pay attention to that breath. Just breathe normally, but pay attention to it. Fill your lungs up and exhale. Okay, so remember my class rules. Rule number 1, this has got to be fun. Rule number 2, smile. Everybody needs to be smiling right now. Rule number 3, don't hurt yourself. If you've got a torn rotator cuff or bad shoulders, don't go too far. Find your limit. But rule number 4 is you got to do it. Now we're going to reverse this in a way. So bring your arms up on beside you, turn your hands to face the top, and then bring them down like this in front of you. All the way down. So inhale as you lift up, and then exhale as you go down. Still moving through water, so you're still going slow. So lift up, turn your hands to face the sky, and then come down. Inhale as you lift up. Exhale as you go down. Smile. Now let's do one more. When you finish this one, cross your hands together just under your belly button. Rest them just below your navel. Close your eyes and get in a good, comfortable standing position. Close your eyes and look at your breath. Follow your breath as it goes in through your nose, down your bronchial tubes, fills your lungs, expands your chest. And then you get full, there's a little pause, and then it goes back out the reverse way, back out through the bronchial tubes, out through your nostrils. Follow your breath. Look at that. Don't think about anything else. Don't think about what your neighbor looks like doing this. Don't think about memories. Don't think about the future. Just think about this breath right now. Now, if you have trouble standing or if it's uncomfortable, you may sit to do this. If you're okay to stand, I would recommend to continue to stand. Make sure your knees are slightly bent, your feet are on the floor, shoulders are relaxed, looking at your breath. Look at the tips of your nostril where the air passes through from the outside into your body and then back out. Be aware of that spot, just that little place of interaction of breath there. Spread your awareness out to your cheekbones. Relax your face. Let all the tension fall out of your face. Relax your forehead, the top of your head, the back of your head, your ears, your jaw. Imagine as you breathe, you're breathing through your facial muscles. Move your awareness down to your neck. Relax your neck muscles. Relax the tops of your shoulders. As you inhale, you breathe in healing energy. As you exhale, you release the tension, release the stress, release the toxins from your body. Move down your arms, relax your arms. Release the tension. From the tops of your shoulders, move down your shoulder blades. Relax the tension in your upper back. As you spread your awareness over these muscles, imagine you're breathing through them. Move down to your lower back in front of your kidneys. Relax the muscles in your lower back. Relax your waist. Move around to your belly. Let your belly be nice and soft, no tension. Raise your awareness up over your chest, your rib cage, your sternum, back up to your shoulders. Going back to your waist, go down through your thighs, through your hips. Relax. Relax the tension in your bottom and your thighs and your knees, your calves. Feel your feet on the floor. Now return your awareness back to your breathing, but imagine you're breathing through your whole body. As you inhale, you just inhale through your skin and all your body fills up with air. And as you exhale, all the nasty stuff and the stress and the ugly tension and bad memories and everything just blows right on out. You breathe in nice healing spring energy. Now open your eyes and do that last exercise again. Bring your arms up. Inhale. Exhale and wash down. And do it one more time. And one final time. Inhale up. Smile. Exhale down. And you can find your seats or you can stay standing. So everybody ought to feel a good bit more relaxed now, right? Okay. That is Qigong. It's pronounced C-H-I-G-O-N-G. The C-H-I is actually spelled Q-I. In Chinese, Q is pronounced C-H, the way we pronounce C-H. So you could say C-H-I. G-O-N-G or K-U-N-G, but it's pronounced Q-I-G-O-N-G, or it's spelled Q-I-G-O-N-G. You can do this anytime. And one of the things when I was listening earlier, I heard, the thing that I would expect is many of you don't have time. You don't have a lot of time, and you don't have a lot of free time. And so it's hard to find time for yourself. So self-nurture is difficult, but try to find those little moments. While I was standing out there waiting, I was doing this. I was shifting my weight to my feet and breathing, right? I was doing Qigong or Tai Chi movements, right? Wasting my time. Instead of just wasting my time sitting here thinking about this project I got to work on this afternoon when I get back that I'd like to finish up before 5 o'clock on Friday, la-di-da-di-da-di, whatever, I'm going to use my time. So the thing is, you can do Qigong or Tai Chi anywhere. You can even do it in a crowded airport and people start moving away from you. And if you get real big with it like we were just doing, you can make a lot of room, So.
Someone doing it at the beach this weekend.
Yeah?
He didn't know, but behind him there was a crowd watching.
I do it on the beach too, and it's, sometimes I get a crowd. I would rather I didn't, but.
Ask him to join him.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I started having a class going on the beach. So that's just it. So it's not. There's not any. It would be nice to say that, or I say it would be nice. It would be easy to say, and a lot of teachers do this. They say, okay, this is special knowledge. You know, and you have to be initiated into this to teach you how to do this. I'm going to tell you that's baloney. Breathe and move. Breathe and move. What we did then, you were very conscious of your breath and moving slowly, right? So if you don't remember these exercises we just did, make something up and breathe and move. Lift one arm and inhale, and lift the other arm and exhale, right? Stand on one leg and do it, right? Whatever. Make it up. It's okay. It works. As long as you're not doing something to hurt yourself. You know, so it is a lot easier than people tell you it is. And the easy works as well as complicated does. The biggest thing is mindful movement. And the best way to be mindful of your movement so that your mind is not out here, like I said, on this project I got to work on, or what happened last week, or what I'm going to be doing next week, or this guy who was on the beach that Rita was just talking about, and I could start thinking about that and fantasizing. Next thing you know, I'm on the beach doing Tai Chi in my head, right? Instead of the way you avoid doing that is watch your breath. Watch your breath. So another thing you can do, you can get in your backyard and you can walk very slowly. Inhale a step and exhale a step. Inhale a step and exhale a step. And that is very, very, very good for you, right? So if you, with the person for whom you're caring, and you only have 10 minutes, but you got 10 minutes, go out in the yard and walk and breathe. Don't go out in the yard and think about what you got to do when you go back in the house, right? Just be in the moment and breathe. Getting out in nature in any form of fashion is always good. Any questions, comments, anything about that? Pardon?
Do you breathe in through your nostril? Do you breathe back out through your nostril?
The recommended way is to breathe in and out through your nostrils. But if you're clogged up with sinuses or whatever, of course you can breathe in and out through your mouth. Some systems say you can breathe in through the mouth and out. In through the nose and out through the mouth. That's okay too. In my lineage, we like I said, we kind of take a pretty laid back approach and just say breathe in and out through the nose, and that's fine, and not make a big deal about it. You know, the biggest thing is, because by the couple of things that happens there, we were pretending we were moving in water, right? That ensures that I move slow, because I can't move any faster than this in water. So by pretending that I'm moving in water and by paying attention to my breath, that locks the mind and body together. And those are the keys. That applies if you're doing yoga, if you're doing Tai Chi, if you're doing karate, if you're dancing, you know, whatever it is. If you can tie this all together, the magic starts happening. The thing that we did, we stood for a couple of minutes and we just stood and breathed, right? If you can do that on a daily practice, it will increase your ability to sleep. I don't know why. I really don't know why, but it will increase your ability to sleep. Another thing that you can do, if you've had a particularly stressful day, whether it's physically stressful or mentally stressful or both, go home and lie down on the floor. Not on the bed, on the floor. And just, if I'm standing here doing what we were doing right there, I can relax to a little bit, but I can't relax everything. If I relax everything, I'm going to fall, right? Same thing with sitting meditation. I can sit to meditate, right? But even sitting with my back against the chair, I'm going to have to keep some muscles engaged to keep from falling over. But if you lie down on the floor, imagine your body is melting into the floor, and you can let everything go. And it will help, especially if you're involved with moving patients. If the person you're caring for has to be moved around and you have to actually engage your muscles in your back or something like that, it's crucial to do that because you allow yourself to rest. You can just 15 minutes, just lie down on the floor for 15 minutes. It makes a tremendous difference. My goddaughter is a dancer, and I was telling her that, and she says, "Oh, we've been doing that for years." You know, that's one of the things that they teach them to do is the dancers is to take a few minutes at the end of the day and just relax, just let go, just lie down on the floor on something solid and just relax. It'll make a tremendous difference. The other thing is to, how do you go about making this happen now? Okay, we've talked about it. I've given you some ideas. on how to think about stress, what stress is, What we just did, Qigong is a counter to stress. It's a countermeasure to stress, right? And now this is, it's big, and it's like I said, it does raise attention if you do it in the airport or on the beach, right? So you can't always do that. Maybe you're sitting in a hospital, or you're at the mall really, and you really don't want to call attention to yourself. Just breathe. Just take a few minutes and breathe. Or go ahead and call attention to yourself. You know, it's better to you to be healthy and make a scene than to not and blow a fuse, right? But I recommend that you build this into your life. Build this into your life and make it a practice. But to do that, you have to revision yourself, like I was saying about quitting smoking. You have to start seeing yourself as a healthy person. You have to start seeing yourself as someone who does these things to nurture yourself, right? Because here's the one thing that we're all going to do. We're all going to die. Every single one of us is going to die. That's guaranteed. So we don't know when that's going to be, but we do know it's a limited amount of time. Don't waste it. Don't waste it. You only have a couple of minutes, or a couple of hours, or a couple of months, or a couple of years. We don't know what it is, but you have a limited amount of time. Don't waste it. Don't waste it being stressed out, being angry. Because here's the thing, anger, fear, stress, they're all the same thing. They're all the same kind of reaction. The counter to that, and stress is nice and tight and ugly and small and all that. Love is big, like we were a while ago, big and expressive. So set an intention. Tell yourself this is what you're going to do. I'm going to do this. I'm going to give myself time and make time to do it. Always, on a regular basis. Maybe a couple of days a week, maybe every day a week. Take some time to nurture yourself. The more time you spend doing Qigong or yoga or meditation in one of these mindful practices like that, the less stressful you are through the rest of your life, because it starts carrying over. Yeah, you feel good right now because we just did it, right? But if you do it every day, your life will change. And you feel good even when you're not doing it. Yes, ma'am.
Is that just an exercise? It's not some kind of spiritual or religious thing?
No.
Anything, is it?
No, it's not. It is sometimes, it's kind of like yoga. Sometimes people take it and apply it into religion, but it is not. It hasn't anything to do with religion. My teacher is from China, and when he was a child, he had a hole in his heart. It was during the Cultural Revolution. They were broke, and China was broke. And, it was a very tough time for China. And basically, the doctor said he's going to die. And one of his uncles said, well, why don't you let him try Tai Chi? So he was like 8 or 9 or 10 years old. And his uncle did Tai Chi. So he started doing Tai Chi, and the hole in his heart healed up, right? And he got better. So he decided to dedicate his life to Tai Chi. He moved to America. He has a PhD in kinesiology, and he has done evidence-based trials to prove the medical efficacy of Tai Chi, how it works, where it does work, and where it doesn't work. So now it can be prescribed for certain conditions because there is medical proof that it does work. It is a scientific practice. It's not a mystical, magical practice. Same thing happened to me. When I was 30 years old, I developed a very crippling type of arthritis. And I was in the military, and I got a medical discharge, and they told me basically by the time I was 42, I'd be in a wheelchair, right? Well, I'm 57, and I'm still not in a wheelchair, right? But I started practicing Tai Chi. And so that's one of the reasons I do this. This is kind of my way of paying it forward or paying it back. Because this is not my job. This is something I do, as I call it my personal ministry. This is my way to share the things that I've learned with other people. It makes a tremendous difference. It makes a tremendous difference in how you live your life. It has completely, totally changed my life. A friend of mine just asked me, she's having a problem with chronic pain. Do you think Tai Chi would work? I said, well, try it for a month and you'll feel better. Try it for 3 months, and your life will start to change. Do it for a year, everything about your life will change. You won't be the same person, and nothing about your life will be the same. Your friends, everything changes. So, yes, ma'am.
I just had a question. So what is the difference between Tai Chi and Qigong, and how long should you practice that each day? I don't know the differences.
Okay, well, and that's a very good question. So Qigong is, Tai Chi basically is Qigong. Okay, but Tai Chi is a martial art. Tai Chi is a Chinese martial art based on Qigong. And so Qigong is very simple practices. Tai Chi is taking Qigong movements and choreographed and added to martial applications and so forth. So Tai Chi is a little bit more of a refined form of Qigong. But we say that Qigong includes Tai Chi, it includes moving practices, and it includes meditation. And it includes positive attitude. It includes the way you think, and the way you live your life, the way you approach everything, right? So just being compassionate, you know? Another thing that I tell people is when they really want to start practicing, you know, when you first start, nothing else, learn a couple of little practices like this, do these practices, do them every day for how much ever time you can, spend some time meditating, don't worry about the results, just spend some time sitting with yourself and breathing. In the morning, when you wake up, before you do anything else, make a commitment to be compassionate that day, to do one random act of kindness, if nothing else. When you stop to get gas, go inside, get a pack of nabs, put them in your glove compartment, and when you see that guy begging on the side of the road, instead of saying that SOB ought to get a job, reach your hand out the window and give him those nabs. That will turn your life around. That will turn your life around. That will melt stress away. And then when you go to bed at night, if you don't pray, just count. Think about the good things that happened to you today. If you pray, maybe you want to thank somebody for those good things that happened for you today. But if you can do that in the morning, set an intention to do something good for a complete stranger, or maybe somebody you know, but just to go out of your way to be compassionate. And then in the evening, count all the good things that happened to you. And your life will start changing. You know, the things that used to make you mad won't make you as mad anymore, right? And exercise your body. Spend some time to exercise your body and spend some time to nurture, just like we just did then, or maybe a little meditation. And what we can do in just a second is we'll do a sitting meditation, and I'll go over that for you, but I'd like to answer any more questions before we do that, if there are any more. Well, like I said, this is not my day job, so I have a consulting business, and I'm actually pretty busy with this, but I do workshops. I'm doing a workshop in a couple of weeks in High Point, and I've got a flyer for that if anyone's interested. The workshop that I'm doing in High Point is called Qigong for Sleep, Stress, and Immune System. Now we have a limited space there, so if the June workshop fills up, I'll just do another one in July. As long as there's people that are willing to do them, I'll do one. It's a 4-hour workshop. But I have friends in pretty much every city around who teach Tai Chi and Qigong on a regular basis. So if anybody's looking for a regular teacher, I can recommend. I have a friend in High Point, a friend in Winston-Salem, a friend in Kernersville, and a friend in Greensboro, who are all people that I'm very happy to recommend for regular classes. I usually do workshops every couple of months or so. I try to do four or six a year, I guess. Just depending on how my schedule works and whatever. It's on Eastchester at 311, just where 311 bypass goes under Eastchester. It's just yeah. And I used to teach weekly classes there, but like I said, that was my regular business has gotten so busy that I just don't have the time to do it. So I do teach workshops there. There's a Buddhist monastery in Thomasville where I've taught some workshops down there. There's a yoga studio here in Kernersville that I've taught some things, and a friend of mine teaches in Winston-Salem, and I cover for his classes sometimes and do some workshops over there. So I just kind of float around wherever and I do my workshops wherever. But I try to keep my workshops very specific and relatively simple, because a lot of times people who come are not consistent practitioners. They're people like yourselves who are interested in it, are interested in learning a little bit of a practice, but aren't necessarily interested in becoming Chinese martial artists, you know, or developing a specific skill or making it their hobby, you know.
I have one more question.
Sure.
For you. And part of your practice, you know, one of the things we talk about in an educational series we do is positive self-talk. You
Yes,
know,
yes.
the brain listens to what you tell it.
Yes.
So does that and it sounds like it relates a lot because you're envisioning yourself being.
Yes.
So, telling yourself, I'm good, I'm doing the best I can, my best is enough. It all relates to when you're caregiving, right? Instead of saying, I give up, I can't do this anymore, and you wake up with a bad attitude. It all relates to this, right?
It does, and that happens to all of us, no matter what we're doing. I mean, we get rolled over, and we have to get back up and go again. But believing that it's going to work out makes a difference, And just like I was saying about Arnold Palmer and the Holy One. If you wake up in the morning and you say, today is going to be a successful day, no matter what the challenge is ahead of me, this is going to work out. You stand a whole lot better chance of working out than worrying, because what is worry? Worry is the exact opposite of that. Worry is telling yourself it's not going to work out. And by worrying, you're increasing the possibility that it's not going to work out, And, a lot of people make fun of positive thinking, and there is the issue of dealing with the reality. Things are what they are and they're not anything else. So if it's bad, it's bad. If someone close to you dies, you're going to be upset, and that's a reality, right? But that doesn't mean that you still can't think positively. That doesn't mean that you cannot think positively. Thinking positively, affirming a good outcome does tremendously to increase the possibility of that outcome. As a matter of fact, I think you are what you think. Basically, you are what you think. And I fully believe that. But we have to realize our conditioning, how we were raised, and how deep those things are that we have to get over. And at a certain point in my life, I had to realize that the things that my parents told me and my grandparents told me, as much as I loved them, weren't always right. That I had to redefine things, and let tradition be what it is. I have to redefine my world. So that is part of what I call a healthy lifestyle practice. I actually prefer to say that I don't teach Tai Chi. I prefer to say, or meditation, that I teach self-nurture. Because this really what it is. Whatever your particular approach is, it's still self-nurture, and it's crucial. Okay, so briefly, we'll talk about meditation. The way that I primarily teach meditation is not necessarily as a spiritual practice and not as a religious practice. It is a clinical practice, just like Tai Chi or yoga or lifting weights or clinical practices. Okay? It is connecting with your mind. Okay? If you want to use this in spiritual practice or religious practice, you certainly may. All major religions have aspects of contemplation or meditation as aspects of their practices. But it is a very practical, skillful, day-to-day practice to be able to meditate. And all you're doing with meditation is setting your intention, following your intention to be in this moment, present, right now. Because this is the only reality that there is. Okay? What happened earlier, when Jody was giving you all that talk, that doesn't exist anymore. You understand that? That is a memory. That doesn't exist anymore, right? And when you get home tonight and cook dinner, that doesn't exist yet. And it may not ever exist. You understand? So living there in your head is a terrible waste of energy and time and the gifts that you were given on this planet. Don't use it there. Use it in this moment, because this is the only moment that we have. Now, that's an easy thing to say, not always an easy thing to practice. So meditation practice, just a basic mindfulness practice, is a good way to be able to do that. The idea with mindfulness practice is to, if we do this in sitting meditation, is to sit and to look at your breath and to follow your breath. Or you can use a mantra, or you can do it when you're doing Qigong or Tai Chi, but basically to follow your breath and just stay with your breath. Your mind will travel. That's okay. Okay? Your mind will go off. And so what will happen is you'll follow your breath. Breath comes in, breath goes out, breath comes in, breath goes out, and then a thought arises, right? And maybe the thought is about, let's try and find something that's not political. Because that's a lot of what's going on right now, right? So maybe the thought is about the presentation that Jody was giving earlier, right? And so this goes up. And you think, oh yeah, I got to make time, right? I got to make time to go camping or whatever it is that my personal thing is, right? And you go with that. And then you remember, man, I remember that time I went camping with my sister and then my cousins came over and we went skinny dipping. And but, the next thing you know, man, you're gone, right? Your head is gone and you're not here anymore, right? That's what happens to us, okay? And it happens in meditation just like it happens driving down the road. But it is so much better to be present. It's okay to remember things, right? The other thing that'll happen is this thing will come up. There's Jody's talk about making time for myself. Man, I never get time to make for myself. And it's getting worse now. And then I'm not making as much money as I used to. And you start thinking about the future. And I never will be able to do this, right? Once again, you're not present. You're not present. So what you do is the thought comes up. It rises up in your memory. That's okay. That's normal. That's a natural thing. That means your brain's working. And then and that means you're alive. So that's good. We want that to happen, right? Just don't get attached to the thought. Leave the thought alone. If you don't engage a thought for about 90 seconds, it'll disappear. Then another one will come up. I promise you. Another one will come up. And then you just, when you don't ignore it, you acknowledge it. Okay, there's a thought about Jody's presentation. And it goes away, right? And then a thought comes up. There's, my truck. I was just talking about my truck, and I got 251,000 miles on it, starting to make a little bit of noise in the rear end, and if I go with it, I'm gone. But if I leave it alone, okay, there's a thought about my truck. Inhale, exhale, stay with my breath. It'll disappear too. Right? That's pretty much the process. If you sit down to meditate, you tell yourself, okay, I'm giving myself 15 minutes for meditation today. You sit down, it's not working, you get frustrated, sit there anyway. Don't get frustrated. Don't expect an outcome. Don't expect nirvana. Don't expect Jesus to come sit down in your lap, right? Don't expect enlightenment. Don't expect anything. Don't expect to even feel peaceful. Just sit and see what happens. And if what happens is you got all these thoughts and everything going on in your head, that's what's happening, right? But it's still okay to relax your body and breathe. You're still getting some benefit from, if nothing else, giving yourself 15 minutes to not do anything else. All right, so everybody, if what you want to do is have a good posture. You can lean back with your back on the chair if you need to, if that makes you feel better. What you don't want to do is this, or this, or this, right? You want to have a good posture. You want your spine to be upright. Your spine can be upright leaning against the chair if that makes you more comfortable, but be upright, right? Don't let your head fall down like that. Imagine the top of your head is being held up by a string, right? So you're staying, and then relax everything like we did a while ago. Relax your shoulders and your arms. You can place your hands on your knees, and you can make one of these mudras like this, or you can pray, just whatever you want to do, right? Typically, I start out with my hands on my knees, and then I'll turn them up like that after a while. But either way, that's really not the most important thing. The most important thing is to be comfortable, but to have a good posture. And then close your eyes. And then breathe. Just breathe normally and just look at your breath. Look at the breath coming in. And look at the breath going out. So don't try to manipulate your breath, but look at the quality of your breath. Have a little smile on your face. Doesn't have to be a big grin, but just a little smile. Because you're happy, you're glad you're alive. And once again, look at the quality of your breath. Notice that after you inhale for a while, there's a pause before you exhale. Notice that pause. Don't try to extend it or shorten it, just notice it. There's a pause between exhale and inhale also. You also may notice, and you may not, but you may notice that your thoughts tend to quiet a little bit during that pause. Things are a little bit more still in the pause. If you do notice that, try to extend that stillness through the inhale and exhale. Now try to scan your body, just starting with your head, top of your head, just slowly move down through your body. Notice any tension that you may have. Don't try to change it, don't judge it. Don't get obsessed with it or attached to it. But if you see any tension or any painful places or any tightness or old injuries, just acknowledge them. Try to make sure your body's relaxed. Now, if you have any pains or old injuries or tension, notice if there isn't a reaction to that. Maybe you have an emotional thought or a sensation. Don't try to change that either. Don't judge it, just notice it. Maybe a thought arises. If it does, acknowledge it. Don't judge it. Don't try to change it. Don't ignore it. But don't get attached to it. Let it go. Return to your breath. Notice the sounds. Notice the sounds in the space. Sounds outside, trucks going down the road. Maybe you hear some birds, people working. Acknowledge that too. Don't judge it. Don't try to ignore it. It's part of our experience right now. Return your awareness to your breath. If your breath starts getting shallow, that's okay. Just stay with what's there. If you find yourself getting distracted by the noise or your thoughts, acknowledge that, but return your awareness to your breathing. Just stay focused on the inhale and exhale. Now open your eyes. Everybody feel good and relaxed? Yes. So, that is a basic meditation. And it is worth your investment to take the time. Take the time, spend a couple of minutes in some sort of movement following your breath, and spend some time in stillness. If you are religious or have a spiritual practice, you may want to pray or whatever your practice may be before or after. But during the time when you're meditating, just use it as a clinical practice. I have friends who will say, they'll say the Lord's Prayer before they do their meditation, and it puts them in the right place. It puts them in a nice, peaceful place to do that. Some people chant. It really depends on what works for you, and you may want to try some of that. Another thing that you may want to do is that the end of your meditation, think about the people that you know, that you're close to, and wish them well. And then think a little wider about the people that you interact with that you really aren't not that close to, and wish them well. Then think about the people that you don't like, or that don't like you, and wish them well. Then think about all the people on the planet, and wish everybody well. Once again, these kind of basic, simple things put you in a different mind space. And I would say most of us probably feel pretty good and relaxed and peaceful right now. It's hard to be stressed out when you're like this. This is not fertile ground for stress, right? The more you do this, so even later when you're not doing this, your body is already more peaceful. If you do this every day, just spend 15 minutes in meditation every day. The other 20 some odd hours or 16 hours that you're awake are going to be more peaceful. You're going to be less likely to blow a fuse. And if you do, don't condemn yourself, Just say that happens, It happened, I had a bad day. I went off, whatever. Anything else? Any questions?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you all.